Yo, welcome to Trippy Commentaries and our coverage of the 2015 fantasy football season. Mike, it is time to talk about the top wide receivers heading into the season.
That's right. We've got some big fantasy freaks here, some giant guys, and some speedsters to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about Odell Beckham Jr. here. It's funny how he's atop many people's lists, but he's only been around for one season. He's well deserving. I'm RJ. Let's go ahead and jump into the top wide receivers. Where's Kelvin Johnson going to land, Mikey?
I don't know, man. Definitely near the top.
Let's find out. Our number one guy is Antonio Brown. Seems like everybody has him at number one. It's crazy because he's not the biggest guy. He's not a freak like a lot of the other athletes on the list, but he's still number one. He just makes plays, and Ben Roethlisberger looks to him early and often.
Yeah, Antonio Brown is an absolute monster on the field. Here we see him doing that famous curb stomping. So hopefully I can own him on one of my fantasy teams.
That would be incredible. I think he's definitely the number one guy, and you really can't make any arguments about it. Demaryius Thomas will be our next guy. Still waiting on Calvin Johnson. And maybe Odell Beckham does have an argument for the number one spot in some eyes, but Antonio Brown does it every year. He's number one for us. So Demaryius is number two. I really like him in this new Gary Kubiak-led offense. He'll be playing a Andre Johnson role in the system. He might be inconsistent. By the time the season is over, he'll be one of the top performers.
Yeah, Demaryius is a sure bet at number two here. He's an absolute beast with Peyton Manning behind the center. And, he's going to have a monster season just like he did last year.
Yeah, and the season before that. Dez Bryant comes in at number three. Some people expect the best season of his career to come in 2015. I really like him to blow up in a big way.
Yeah, Dez Bryant is an absolute monster, especially with Tony Romo throwing him the ball. There's just some weird connection there. It's an absolute great connection. And then you've got Jerry Jones not paying him. What the hell? Come on, Jerry. Pay your man.
Odell Beckham Jr. is at number four. Still no Calvin Johnson, Mike. Odell Beckham could be a one-year wonder. Everybody knows him for this catch right here, but he made a ton of amazing catches down the line and ended up as one of fantasy's best receivers last season.
Yeah, I don't think he's a one-year wonder. I think he's in a great position here at number four, and I think we can expect some more spectacular catches like we saw last year.
Green Bay Packer wide receiver Jordy Nelson comes in at number five. He's a monster each and every season. Aaron Rodgers loves him.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. He's going to have another solid season there in Green Bay. I like me some Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, touchdowns galore. I look for A.J. Green to have his best season yet. I really like Jeremy Hill. He's going to bust out some huge runs. That's going to open up the passing game. So A.J. Green is going to be great as usual. It's going to be crucial that you guys grab a number one wide receiver. Probably get two number one style wide receivers, especially because it gets so skimp. A.J. Green is a nice value here at number six. I've always been high on Julio Jones. If he can just stay healthy, he's going to produce in a big way. He's here at number seven, Mike. I know you're questioning me ranking him one spot over Calvin Johnson. Who do you like here?
Well, it's really a question of health with Julio Jones. If Julio Jones is healthy, he's definitely capable of being better than Calvin Johnson.
But it's also a question of health for Calvin Johnson.
Exactly.
And we've seen Calvin get injured just as much. So if you're going to have that question right now, I take Julio. It sounds crazy, but it's at that point for me. So Megatron comes in at number 8, Mike. I know you expected him to come in much higher, but if you look at all the guys I ranked before him, they're all very safe. Calvin Johnson's going to have some of his production taken away by Golden Tate, and he is older, as he's still capable of another beast season.
Yeah, he's definitely still capable of making those big plays, and I think he's a great receiver to pick a little bit later on in the fantasy draft.
Yeah, there's a chance that someone's going to reach for him just because he's Calvin Johnson. Some people compare him to Jerry Rice. Yeah. Does he still have another monster season in him? You guys be the judge. If you draft him, that's kind of taking a chance. Big Mike Evans is at number 9. He trained with Randy Moss in the offseason. That's going to help out his game. And now he takes over the Julio Jones role in the Buccaneers' new dirt cutter offense, which means he's going to be going deep more than ever.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see Mike Evans being thrown the ball from Jameis Winston, man. It's going to be something to see, and hopefully plenty of touchdowns to go.
One guy we're not going to mention on this list is Vincent Jackson, his counterpart. So Jackson's going to play the Roddy White role. That's still a great wide receiver to play next to Mike Evans. You always like when your big stud receivers have another good player right next to him to open up some lanes.
Absolutely.
And Mike Evans got that in Vincent Jackson.
Yes, he does.
Alshon Jeffrey comes in at number 10. No more Brandon Marshall. They do bring in Kevin White, but the one thing Alshon Jeffrey is great at is catching touchdowns. I look for him to get a ton of them in 2015.
Yeah, Alshon Jeffrey with no more Brandon Marshall. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to put up bigger numbers here this season.
Yeah, it's possible. Matt Forte does enough to open up the passing game, that's for sure. I'm pretty high on Kelvin Benjamin this year. Really, I'm high on the entire Carolina Panther offense. I think he's going to have a step-up season. Cam Newton's going to look for him a lot. Kind of a low ranking for Randall Cobb here, number 12, Mike. He's probably going to be productive. Jordy Nelson still is the number 1 guy in town, but it's Aaron Rodgers that we're talking about.
Yeah, one of your worries in Green Bay is obviously all of the wide receivers that are available to Aaron Rodgers. But this guy always seems to do great regardless of how many good wide receivers there are. So look forward to Randall Cobb having a great season once again with Aaron Rodgers.
I'll admit, the reason why I have Randall Cobb lower than others is because I'm super high on Devontae Adams, which is going to cut into a little bit of Cobb's value. Jordy Nelson's value's not going anywhere. He's going to blow up every time he's on the field. I love Jordan Matthews this year for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's their number 1 guy with Jeremy Maclin leaving town. Even though he's going to be lining up mostly out of the slot, I still see a lot of production, a lot of touchdowns. Who knows who's going to be passing him the ball? Hopefully Sam Bradford, but even if it's Mark Sanchez, Jordan Matthews could be a sneaky number 1 wide receiver, even though he comes in at number 13. This could be a low rating for T.Y. Hilton coming in at number 14. I do think Andre Johnson's going to take a little bit of his value, but with Andrew Luck throwing him the ball, he'll do just fine.
Yeah, this guy is fast, and he catches bombs as good as anyone else in the league.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm not too optimistic about number 15, Emmanuel Sanders, this season. Like I said earlier, I think Peyton Manning's value is going to decrease, so I'm avoiding Emmanuel Sanders. If you look at his stats last year, man, he was a number 1 caliber wide receiver, but I just don't think that's going to repeat this year. Big-time deep threat Deshaun Jackson comes in at number 16. He's got huge upside, Mike, and RG3 had some chemistry with him last year. What do you think?
This guy's an absolute burner. He is extremely fast. It's going to be interesting to see how he does his second year with the Redskins.
Yeah, I really love having him on my team. New Orleans Saints wide receiver Brandon Cooks comes in at number 17. He's the number 1 guy this year. Marcus Colston's on the decline. There is no more Jimmy Graham. They're on the Saints, so Drew Brees should be looking for the burner. Brandon Cooks had a pretty bad injury last season, but this year he's healthy and ready to go.
Yeah, hopefully he can complete a whole season healthy. It should be interesting to see how he does if he's able to do so.
If he can, then he's kind of undervalued here coming in at 17. He has top 10 capability, that's for sure. DeAndre Hopkins really impressed me last season. He's the number 1 wide receiver for the Houston Texans now. He's going to have big-time production. And to be honest with you, him landing at number 18, that's low. It's just hard to get him higher on the list. I recommend draft him. Use him as your number 2 wide receiver. Amari Cooper comes in at number 19. I really like him. Definitely make sure to draft him on your squad. He'll have a pretty good connection with Derek Carr, and there's really nobody else there in Oakland for him to throw it to, so he'll get a lot of attention, and he's going to blow up in his rookie season. Brandon Marshall comes in at number 20. He has a new team, the New York Jets, and he's their number one guy. He no longer has Alshon Jeffrey to split touchdowns with. That said, his quarterback is dreadful, so buyer beware. Andre Johnson comes in at number 21. Mike, what do you think? He's on a new team, the Indianapolis Colts.
Well, he's with Andrew Luck now. He's going to have plenty of opportunities for lots of yards and touchdowns.
Yeah, I think he's going to do very well, and I'm going to look to get him as much as possible. Another player from last year's rookie class, Sammy Watkins, finishes off the list at number 22. I'm a little bit worried about Percy Harvin being in town. Is that going to take away some of Watkins' production? That remains to be seen. But the truth of the matter is, Sammy Watkins is such a good player that he should be able to get it done despite not having a very good quarterback in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, Sammy Watkins is an extremely good player. He really should be a little bit higher on this list. But the one thing that does knock him down a little bit lower is the quarterback that is throwing to him, E.J. Manuel.
Yeah, Matt Castle's not looking too good either.
Yeah, unfortunately we need to upgrade there, and Sammy Watkins will get one as well.
Yeah, that's for sure. We still like Sammy Boy, and there's a lot of other guys we still have to name off as we conclude our 2015 Fantasy Wide Receiver Preview. Thanks again for joining us, guys. We have to give a special shout out to Jarvis Landry from Miami, Golden Tate in Detroit, and this guy right here, Charles Johnson, a power speed freak with the Minnesota Vikings. Even though Mike Wallace is in town, we still think Charles Johnson is the number one guy for the Vikings. Adrian Peterson's back, so he might be able to catch some deep balls, getting us some huge fantasy points. Thanks again for joining. Make sure to catch myself and Mike coming up with our tight end preview. If you haven't catched them yet, look at our quarterback and running back preview. And there's still a lot to talk about with the receivers, so we'll probably bring you a more in-depth, deeper wide receiver look as well. Catch that and more here at Trippy Commentaries. Guys, make sure, as always, to stay trippy.